Good morning. So it's New Year's Day 2021 and I'm just off to do the Much Wenlock town trail. It's still very cold, but it's stopped raining and snowing. So my town trail starts here, just at the entrance to Station Road, and either side are these two big pillars. If anybody knows what they were for, I'd be interested to know. I presume something to do with the old railway. But we're going to head on down now to the old station house. So this is the old Much Wenlock station, now disused and converted into private dwellings. Imagine the sound of the steam engines waiting to leave for Builders or Craven Arms. The railway was started in 1850 by Dr. William Penny Brooks, doctor, entrepreneur and inspiration for the modern day Olympic Games. It was originally constructed to transport local quarried limestone and was built in linking stages, in the end composing of 5 different lines. The official opening of the Wenlock Builders line was in February 1862. It was possible with this section of line to connect to the Severn Valley line and Shrewsbury. In 1864 the line was extended to Prestoe, initially for goods only, and in the opposite direction Builders was linked to Coalbrookdale, thus making a continuous link to Wellington. By 1867 Prestoe was linked to Craven Arms for both passengers and goods, and passenger traffic was available for the public from Wellington to Craven Arms. The route of the line still remains in places along Wenlock Edge, and various station buildings and halts can still be found if you wanted to explore further afield. The railway was used by many to get to and from work and shopping, and it was a hard blow when the last locomotive left Wenlock on the 21st of July 1962. So now standing on what is known as the Linden Fields, and in front of me is William Brooks School. So this is a newer version of the school. I think the original school was built in the 1950s and I was a pupil there from 1987 to 1992. And just over on the hill is the windmill, which if you were a student at William Brooks School you'll remember from your cross-country days. The windmill was built in around 1600, and though it was damaged by lightning some 200 years later, the Much Wenlock Windmill Preservation Trust is now working to restore it to its former glory. It was on this hill that spectators would sit to watch the early Wenlock Olympian Games. Founded by Dr. William Penny Brooks in 1850, the concept was adopted and developed by various groups throughout the world and ultimately resulted in the first International Olympic Games in 1896. The local version of the Games continued to this day, taking place every year in July. Today on Windmill Hill one can get a wonderful view of the rooftops of Wenlock, a great place to stop for a picnic on a walk. So this is the actual old railway line that I'm standing on now. can see there's embankments both sides. And we're going up these other steps here. So got a lovely view over there to the left. You can just see the tower of the Wenlock Church and fields behind. No matter what time of year, the patchwork effect is always different in these fields depending on the farmer's schedule of ploughing, harvesting or rotating animals for grazing. The monks from the priory walked these fields in contemplation and sourced water from 3 ponds in the fields. One can usually see a selection of bird life including birds of prey and rabbits and badger paths. Hello, beauties. So this is the best view of Wenlock Priory I can get at the moment, as it's closed. So the priory went through several rebuildings and extensions. In the 11th century, Lady Godiva commissioned some work on the church, and the priory fell into disuse when Henry VIII went through the dissolution of 1540. But these spectacular ruins are the 12th and 13th century remains of a church and cloistral buildings belonging to the Cluniac Priory, which is now under the management of English Heritage. It is said to be the final resting place of St Milburga, the first abbess, whose bones were found during rebuilding in 1101. So I'm just in the car park of the Priory Hall, and there's this big stone tower which was part of the Priory as well. So this was once the Wenlock National School from 1848 to 1958. And just at the end there, that timber framed building is John's cottage, which dates from the 1400s. It has a cobble front pavement which gives you a feel of what the town was like, and a brook ran down the road and was aptly called a shit brook because it was effectively the town's open sewer. Later it was culverted and covered over, thus making the lane. So this is the front of John's cottage, and you can see the cobbles there. So I'm now just in the graveyard of Holy Trinity Church at Much Wenlock. Some interesting looking headstones all about. I'm going to head to these graves here with the blue cast iron round them. So these are the graves of the Brooks family of Much Wenlock. And then this one here is the grave of William Penny Brooks, the founder of the modern Olympic Games. So an interesting feature on the wall of the church here are these grooves in the wall. So apparently they were made by men sharpening their arrows as they awaited their masters who were attending service. I'll leave you to make your own mind up about that. So it was here that St Milburga, Wenlock's female saint and abbess of Wenlock Priory, was buried and later moved. Her remains are said to be moved a number of times, and she is reputed to have started the church for the women townfolk and their nuns to attend services. It became the church of the parish around 1100, and the Cluniac monks from the priory were said to be responsible for much of the stonework. The church encompasses many time periods as it went through restorations. During one phase, the remains of 3 unidentified people were discovered. It is said that they sometimes can be seen as ghostly shadows with their heads hung down around in the churchyard. So this lovely building in front of me, with its lovely Christmas trees in the window, was actually the birthplace of William Penny Brooks, the founder of the Olympian Games. So this impressive building is the Guild Hall, and it's a stone and timber frame building. The stone part, closest to the church, was an old jail. Round the back is a memorial to the author Mary Webb, who resided at the Grange in Wenlock. Mary Webb's book Gone to Earth was made into a film and in 1949 the glitter and excitement of a big film production crew arrived in Wenlock to shoot some of the scenes. Produced by Powell and Pressburger, the film starred Jennifer Jones, David Farrar, Cyril Cusack and George Cole, plus many locals as extras. Locations in Wenlock included the Square, the Guildhall, the Talbot Inn and after-hour drinks at the George and Dragon pub. So these buildings here were once open market spaces, then semi-enclosed markets, and then finally made into individual units. The different buildings are made from different materials and they're different widths. So this cobbled area here was also part of the market area. So I've just come down the street there, and then just here this is St Milburger's Well, and it's thought to have been one of Wenlock's earliest water supplies. Some folks say it was reputed to have healing benefits, and others say that if a young woman wanted to find a husband, she would go to the well on a special date in the year and dab the waters on herself. It is too long ago now to find anyone who can verify the success of such a trial. So the square is a relatively new addition to the town, constructed in 1988. Nowadays it's a great gathering spot for the locals and a good vantage point for the visitors to enjoy the sun and watch the town's activities. Prior to the square's construction, the area was rough ground with some shops and served as a car park for the former cinema, now the Memorial Hall, and tourist information. The small clock tower was erected by Mayor Thomas Cook to commemorate the Diamond Jubilee of Queen Victoria on the 20th of June 1897. Mr Cook owned the grocery across the street, now the Spa shop, and it is said that he positioned the memorial there so that there would never be a building obscuring his view or others' view of his shop. So just in front of me is the George and Dragon pub, a lovely old pub that used to brew beer and cider in the 1950s. People say that they used to keep a large black dog in the cellar to guard the beer, but he was somewhat neglected by the owner. It's said that his image can sometimes be seen wandering around the pub looking for attention, or if you put your hand out you might just feel the warmth of his breath as he gently brushes past you. So this was the Corn Exchange. Constructed in 1851, the building became an agricultural library shortly afterwards and is still used as the local public library. Above the market area there's a plaque in memory to William Penny Brooks, placed on the building in 1897 in the 60th year of Queen Victoria's reign on the throne. So this is Reynolds Mansion, constructed in 1682. Notice the two doors and two porches above. Between the doors there was a post and bar which enabled workers to lift heavy loads onto their backs. Late at night some say they see Victorian ghost children playing on the balconies. The Talbot Inn has been a lodging since 1361, and the courtyard has a malt house in the back. So this building was constructed in the 17th century. The building was an inn until the 1920s, and until recently was a Barclays bank. This is Ashfield Hall. It has some of the windows painted in. A black and white window was painted above the door, as many places did, to help avoid some of the window taxes. The building was originally called St John's Hospital, but in fact it was a hostel for lost and naked beggars. The plaque on the building states Charles I slept here in 1642. Some beggar. This is the Gaskell Arms, a 17th century coaching inn. So even back then, this road would have been quite busy. So this is the squatter's cottage, and you'll note that it has the cottage is very small and has a chimney with a huge base to it. Squatters' cottages had to be constructed within one day and always started with a chimney for which they could then build the remainder of the house. The rule was that smoke had to be coming out of the chimney by the end of the day for them to stay living there. So this is a fine example of a crook frame house, St Owen's Well House, and in the wall on the outside of the house is St Owen's Well itself. This could be one of Wenlock's oldest buildings. You will learn that St Owen, a French monk, visited Much Wenlock in the 6th century, and this well may have been the reason for establishing the priory. So we're now in the area, what they called the bull ring, where they did in fact bait bulls at one time. The building here is the old bank building, built in 1829, now a private house. Next door is the old police station, built in 1864, and it is made of special blue bricks believed to have been made in Broseley. This is Bastard Hall. The BBC Time team televised the history of the building a number of years ago. So we've got another view there of Bastard Hall, the half-timbered building. and the building with the brown door was the old jailhouse, and then these here with the blue doors were almshouses. And we're almost back at the start of our walk. So there you can see the two stone pillars that I walked past, and this here is part of an old railway bridge that used to go across the road and carry on that way. So yeah, that was the town trail of Much Wenlock. Quite interesting. Quite lucky really. Much Wenlock is a town that hasn't changed much over the years.